Hi, everybody. It's Eric Murray from the Sugar Huddle. Well, I just wanted to do a quick pre-Heisman Trophy video just to kind of break down my thoughts and my Heisman Trophy winner prediction. I'm not going to do a post-Heisman Trophy video because it's really just kind of pointless because they're just going to announce the winner and you can kind of have your own takeaway from that. I don't expect any kind of crazy, shocking results. So there's no point in doing a follow-up video, but I want to do a pre-video. Of course, it's going to be on later tonight in about 5 hours from now, 4.5, 5 hours from now. So just want to do a quick video breaking down the three finalists. Also talk about a few guys that also just barely missed the cut. Kind of give my thoughts, kind of run down some stats and kind of what it all means here. So obviously the three finalists: Tua Tagovailoa, Alabama quarterback; Kyler Murray, the Oklahoma quarterback; and then Dwayne Haskins, who made a late push, the Ohio State quarterback. It seems like it's realistically down to Tua and Kyler, who's going to, and a lot of people think it's now going to be Kyler who's going to win it. Breaking down the numbers, obviously Tua's 13-0, 3,353 yards, 37 touchdowns, 4 picks. Remember, started the year 25 touchdowns, no picks, and a real crazy rating. 67.7% completion percentage. Doesn't run a whole lot, but is very efficient when he does. 190 yards, 5 touchdowns. Dealt with an ankle injury knee and ankle injuries throughout the year. Still finished with a 202.3 rating. He had 3 games below 140 rating-wise, which aren't very good, and all 3 of them came within the last within the last like 5 games. So he really kind of, faltered down the stretch. He played poorly, obviously, against Georgia. Had like a really horrible 92.3 rating. As we know, college football, their rating system is dramatically different than the NFL. So 92.3 isn't the same as 92.3 in the NFL. But it was terrible against Georgia. Got knocked out of that game. Again, had some injuries there. Now in a walking boot. We'll see if he plays the bowl game, but got knocked out of that game. Then Jalen Hurts, who he replaced in the national title game last year, who's a much lesser quarterback than Tua, was able to lead Alabama back from behind and win that ball game and win the SEC title over Georgia. So I think that's going to be the thing. It's probably going to lose Tua the Heisman. The fact that he kind of fell off down the stretch. That was his toughest game and didn't play great in that game. In first half, I think he only completed like 3 passes for a real low number of yards, or he had 3 completions until late in the half, something like that. So he just didn't play well. Real poor game. Kyler, thing that hurts him is obviously the Big 12's awful. All the defenses are awful. But at the same time, with that being said, didn't have any bad games at all. Lowest rating was a few weeks back against Kansas, 151.41. They still won that game by 15 points. He still threw a couple touchdowns, just had 1 pick. 12-1, obviously, lost to Texas. Then they rebounded in the Big 12 title game by beating Texas the second time around, beat him by 12, and he really got stronger and stronger each quarter. So that's going to really give him a great chance of possibly winning this Heisman. 4,053 yards, 40 touchdowns, 7 picks, 70.9% completion percentage. Far and ahead of both Tua and Haskins as far as rushing, 892 yards, 11 touchdowns, had some big games, big runs. 205.7 rating is the highest of them all. So for him, you're looking at nearly 5,000 total yards of offense and 51 total touchdowns. Pretty hard to beat. And then for Haskins, who made the late push, he had 3 straight games of 400-plus passing yards to end the regular season, threw for a bunch of touchdowns. 12-1 record, obviously, has a 29-point loss to Purdue, which is really going to kill him. 4,580 yards, 47 touchdowns, 8 picks, so he has the most impressive pure passing numbers. 70.2% completion percentage, just shy of Kyler. 122 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. Really became more of a runner late in the year. Did a nice job. And then by far the lowest rating, 175.8, is still very, very impressive. But compared to the other 2 guys at 30 points lower. With Haskins, his downside is even though he had the 3 straight 400-yard games and balled out against Michigan, the problem is the other 2 games were against Maryland and Northwestern. Those 2 teams combined have 12 losses. Maryland didn't make a bowl game, and they really should have lost that game. Obviously, we know about what happened with the 2-point conversion there at the end. And then Northwestern, an inferior team, hung around with Ohio State most of the game. But anyways, nonetheless, it still was impressive to end the year. But the problem is the 3 previous games before that, he had a rating below 140 in all 3 of those games. And actually 4 games with a rating below 140. Actually, rating below 137, if you want to get exact. I think 136.8 was his highest in any of the 4 games. The 4 games that Purdue lost, like I said, they lost by 29 at Purdue. That really killed him and kept him out of the playoff. And then yeah, Penn State, Nebraska, or I'm sorry, Purdue, Nebraska, and Michigan State were the 3 games in a row that he had a rating of below 137. Those all came before this current 3-game stretch, and then the Penn State game earlier in the year where they were able to come back and win by 1. So those things really kind of hurt him. He just had a very uneven season. I know a lot of people say, it only takes 1 game, you make that late Heisman push. But even with Michigan being the number 1 defense in the country, I don't know if that's enough for him to take the Heisman when, he didn't get a chance to rematch Purdue and try to beat them. Obviously Kyler Murray did, and he was able to, rematch with Texas after barely losing the first time, beat him in the Big 12 title game, whereas, Ohio State game was to win a division title and not the conference title. Obviously that was against Northwestern when they won the conference title. So really, when you talk about, impressive end of the year, big push, Kyler was just as impressive as Haskins at season's end, whereas Tua really fell off quite a bit. So I think Tua, most people thought throughout the year he had the Heisman locked up, and he really kind of lost the Heisman at the end of the year, the last few weeks, especially the SEC title game, and I think Kyler Murray locked it up. So I think Kyler Murray's going to end up winning the Heisman. When you look at Dwayne Haskins, a lot of people talk about stats, but Kyler does it through the air, on the ground. And the thing that's interesting is, Jeff Sagarin, he does those mathematical ratings. He's been doing it forever. And one of the things he has is strength of schedule. According to his strength of schedule ranking, Alabama is 44th nationally currently as we stand as far as their strength of schedule. Ohio State's a little bit ahead at 40th, so that's what Haskins is working with. But despite some of the criticism of the Big 12, Kyler Murray's strength of schedule is the highest of the 3 at 31st. And, of course, being able to beat Texas, the only team they lost to, in a rematch, beat them by 12. And like I said, he got better and better throughout that game. So those are the things that really help. Now, just thing I want to throw out real quick is there are a few other guys that just barely missed the cut. Will Grier, the West Virginia quarterback, Gardner Minshew, the Washington State quarterback, awesome mustache, and then, of course, Travis Etienne, the Clemson running back. The Grier, he lost his last 2 games, including the shootout to Oklahoma. Obviously, they choked away that big lead in the second half at Oklahoma State right before that. He still finished the year 67% completion percentage, 3,864 yards, 37 touchdowns, 8 picks. His rating was 175.49, so it's basically identical to Haskins, who was 175.8. Minshew was 10-2, but obviously he ended the regular season with a horrible loss at home against Washington. They lost 28-15. He was really horrible in the second half, or in the first half, not much better in the second half. 26-35, $152, and 2 picks. For the year, though, 70.6% completion percentage. All they do is pass all the time at Washington State. 613 attempts, 4,477 yards, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. And then ETN, 176 carries, 1,463 yards, 8.3 yards of an attempt, and 21 touchdowns. As a team, Clemson averages just under 260 per game. I think it's 259.77. 6.75 yards per attempt as a team, and 46 rushing touchdowns. Nationally, obviously Clemson 13-0. They're in the college football playoff. Nationally, he's ranked just 10th in rushing yards, 3rd in rushing touchdowns, and 7th in yards per carry, even though obviously 8.3 is unbelievable. So, as impressive as his numbers are, Clemson obviously can do great without him. And, certainly, even though his numbers are still impressive nationally, he's not the top back in the nation. When we're talking about stats, you really have to kind of wow people when you have all these quarterbacks putting up the numbers that they put up. So he's kind of loses it because, he's the only running back of the group, and because Clemson can still run the ball great even without him. Minshew, because of the loss to UW, which also locked him out of the Pac-12 title game, and then Grier losing 2 in a row to end the season. Even though he generally played well in those games, they still lost those games, and that cost him a shot at playing for a conference title, and obviously a shot at possibly getting in the playoff and maybe even competing for a national title. So I think at the end of the day, I think because of the combined rushing and passing stats, I think Kyler Murray probably is going to end up winning it over Tua. Like I said, Tua just fell off at the end of the year. SEC title game killed him, and I think Haskins will be a distant 3rd, but he'll steal some votes, and I think that'll help Murray a little bit extra. So anyways, that's my pre-Heisman Trophy ceremony thoughts. Like I said, the ceremony starts in about 4.5, 5 hours. We'll see who wins it. I'm pretty sure it's going to probably be Murray at this point, so not really a shocking, revealing ceremony. I'm not the biggest Heisman Trophy ceremony guy anyways, or trophy in general, because it goes to the best quarterback or running back. Usually it doesn't go to the best player typically, but whatever. Anyways, so please go to sugarhuddle.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also like my Facebook page, The Sugar Huddle. Thank you.